But Graham and I, well, we're going to do a look back at the Ebo Festival last week. It's going to be a reduced Ebo Festival here on Racing UK, and we're going to start with our first race of the Wednesday. Remember, it was a fantastic festival, and here we can see Rex Imperator is still a sprinter on the up.
Most definitely, Gordon. A hard luck story here. About 3 or 4 from left of picture. Roger Charlton's representative, carrying a big weight, got no room to manoeuvre whatsoever. Tax-free put up a corking performance to win it at the age of 10. But if you pick up 3 from left now, in the dark cap, dark sleeves, Rex Imperator, highly progressive coming into this. He just gets lost in the shuffle of a big field sprint handicap. Who knows where he might have finished had he got the breaks. He finishes 3.5 lengths behind the leader. Watch him late on. Gap closes, gap closes, gap closes. He's probably got 15 horses ahead of him. Now he gets a little bit of room. He begins to pass horses and pass horses pretty quickly. So this is a horse who looked really good a couple of starts ago when he won that Windsor race. That form worked out nicely. He didn't quite get home after pulling hard at Newmarket, and he caught the eye again. The problem is that these unlucky in running horses never get missed now because of the video mob, because of the exchanges, etc. So you're probably going to have to take a reduced price in some ways, but he does give the impression that he's bang on the upgrade and will probably do better very quickly.
He might be overbet next time. You think punters will be after the money back?
He probably will be overbet, but he's definitely a horse to be interested in. I think he has maybe 2 engagements that catch the eye. There's a very valuable sprint handicap at Haydock on Betfred Sprint Cup Day, and of course there's a Portland handicap over 5.5 at Donny. Based on what we've seen recently, 5.5 or 6 may well be a better option than 5.
Next up then, second race of day 1, we had the Acomb Stakes. This time Dundonald and Steeler, the 1-2, could meet again later this autumn, Graham. They're engaged in a lot of good races at Doncaster and Newmarket. Possible.
I wonder if they might meet again in the Royal Lodge Stakes, which of course is moved from Ascot to Newmarket now. Either way, in this Group 3 Acomb Stakes, the cream rises to the top. Alfonso de Souza, right of picture, not good enough. El Arab in the Sheikh Hamdan colours, not quite good enough, it seemed. Steeler in the green colours, second right, runs on like a hero. He's bred to thrive over a mile and will do so. But left of picture, Dundonald shows what separates good colts from the run-of-the-mill. That turn of foot he showed was pretty impressive. I think he idled late on, but fair play to Steeler. He ran a screamer, coming on strongly. Mark Johnson has won the Royal Lodge with Mr. Bailey's and Jukebox Jury. The Royal Lodge would look a very suitable target for this horse if he doesn't run in the Solario at Sandown this weekend. Look at the way he stays on. Look at the way Dundonald quickens. They are 2 very, very promising juveniles indeed.
With big futures this season and in 2013.
I think so. I think they both have prospects for next year, especially Steeler, who's out of a Park Hill Stakes winner. He's likely to get better and better. Not much between them on the day. They both have futures in Patent Company.
We move on to the third race of day 3 of the York Ebo Festival. This time it was a great voltager, and well, jockeyship almost certainly decided the race, Graham.
I think that's fair to say. More on William Buick later on, but let's pick up the Great Voltager Stakes and a masterclass in pace judgment from William Buick. Pick them up as they come into the straight. Those fractional times which we had on screen last week are such a godsend for form students. The sooner we get them all the time, the better. There are lots of grants flying around thanks to the sale of the tolt nowadays. There's money in the pot, surely, for someone to get us some form of split time mechanism. Either way, Buick here dictated. The others had to dance to his tune. 7 furlongs at 13.47 plus, Gordon, then an 11.77, a 10.78 and a 10.96. That swift injection of pace gave him a real tactical advantage. In the white cap, there's no 2 ways about it. Ted Durkin ended up further back than ideal on Main Sequence, and Main Sequence, the Derby runner-up, runs a belter, coming on strongly for second and narrowing the gap all the way to the line until the last few yards. Question is, which is the better Ledger prospect? Many would say, well, of course, it's Main Sequence. Caught flat-footed, stayed on powerfully. I disagree. I think Thought-Worthy, whose brother Lucano won this race and the St. Ledger, is an interesting Ledger contender. Of course, his form falls below that of Camelot. But of the Gosden posse, including Great Heavens, possibly Michelangelo, possibly Shantaram. I think Thought-Worthy has definite place claims.
John Gosden, when he wins this Great Voltage, or sometimes his horse, like Lucano, is promoted into, well, high up in the betting for the ledger, and often the winner of this race is promoted into favouritism, but there's a certain Camelot waiting in the wings. Anything we saw in that race to scare the Triple Crown seeking Camelot?
I've seen too many so-called top-quality speed horses beaten in the ledger to take anything for granted. So I wish Camelot well in his Triple Crown bid, but stamina is what wins those races. I think Thought-Worthy is bred to have plenty of it, and I think we saw from the way he battled on there that he's a bona fide Donny contender.
Next up then, it's the Juddmonte International, and just one word to describe this: Frankel.
Yeah, we picked this up, Gordon, and what more can you say really about Frankel? All the superlatives have been used in the last week. I can't think of any new ones that would really fit. But what I can do is refer to a piece on bloodhorse.com that one or two people may not have seen. It's from an American writer called Eric Mitchell, I think, and he touched on the experience of being at York last week, and he touched on Stuart Machin's role in the piece, and touched on Stuart maybe performing the role of a Bible-bashing preacher up in the pulpit with sweat streaming off him, getting the congregation fully fired up and talking as if we were witnessing something supernatural. If you get a chance to see it, it's well worth having a look at. But Frankel was absolutely sensational on this day, and he powers clear of some high quality horses, and Stuart called it absolutely perfectly in the run. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Stuart had prepared for an eventuality like this. He delivered a superb commentary, and Frankel delivered a sensational performance, one which will live in the memory of anyone who saw it for decades and decades and decades. Over to you, Stuart. There he is.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Look at that. Extraordinary. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, maybe just a supplementary on Frankel then. 13 from 13. Well, we are running out of things to say about Frankel. For those doubters who worried about him maybe going round a left-handed bend, going up to 10 furlongs a mile and a quarter, it was one of his best performances.
It was absolutely flawless. And now the quick question: Arc, Champion Stakes, Mulan, QE2, whatever. Where does he have most to gain, Gordon, from his next race?
Where?
Yeah, which race gains him? Of course. So that's what we'd all like. But I think there's enough credit in the bank for Cecil, Grimthorpe and Frankel himself for us not to be too disheartened if he goes to Ascot rather than Longshore.
Frankel then, we'll never see his like again. An absolute freak. And we go from the Juddmonte International, the Group 1, to a 2 mile handicap. And this time an Irish winner, Olympiad. And we're just wondering, will this medal now at a higher level?
Dreadful phrase, but I think he probably will. Have a look at Olympiad and the way he takes control of a good quality 2 mile handicap, and the way he's in control, and really nicely in control, in the final furlong. Pick them up off the bend. Lots of informed horses coming into this race. This was only Olympiad's 5th run. It came from a BHA mark of 89, and he was always on the premises, always going pretty well, and he was always in control actually in the final furlong. Pick him up in those familiar Sir Robert Ogden colours, mauve, white and pink. He's about 4 from the left. He's going really well under Pat Smollen, who rode a couple of winners and gave 2 excellent interviews to Lydia and to Nick last week. But this inexperienced horse, you can see that Pat's full of confidence. You can see that every other jockey in the race, looking at Dzinski, Hero Status, horses who are in good nick coming into the race. Itlark, 3rd left of picture, slightly unlucky in the run. But Olympiad is nicely in control. Couple of liveners just to seal the deal, and then he's firmly in control off a mark of 89. We all know many years ago now that his trainer Dermot Weld won the Cesarewitch with Vintage Crop. This horse doesn't have quite the same profile. Vintage Crop was lightly raced, but I think he'd won a maiden hurdle before he went and romped away with the Cez. But he has the Cesarewitch entry. He will go up to a mark well into the 90s, but he looks a really honest galloper, and he's by a certain Galileo Cyril Frankel.
I was going to say that the higher level of a mark of 89 beyond the Cesarewitch, what would you do with him?
Well, he could be it's a dread phrase, but he could be better than a handicapper in due course. And I don't suppose it's going to make it happen, but he'd make a right good jumper. So I wouldn't surprise. Watch the market, I think. If you get vibes of market moves for Newmarket, it could be a fair bet that Olympiad will be coming for the Zazarowicz, and along with the likes of Montasa, he strikes as an early strong contender.
The final race of day one of the Ebo Festival was a mile and a quarter handicap, won by Dana, which just proves that Luca Kamani's older horses are in prime form.
Rip-roaring form. We can deal with this pretty quickly because it was a case of Dana not having shone, not by a long chalk actually at Goodwood, but there were a couple of horses who didn't shine at Goodwood who showed completely different colours at York. Pick him up in those familiar yellow colours. Money came for him under Kieran Fallon. Coming off the bend is in midfield. He gets a clear shot at things and wins tidily. But on the broader point here, that Kamani angle, we knew he had a strong team of older horses for this summer. Look at the way they've all come to the boil together. Afsare, very unlucky in the Arlington Million against a pace bias. Mount Athos, Melbourne Cup bound after the Geoffrey Freer win. Dana himself here. Kurt Hill, more of him later on, won a big York handicap. And Quest for Peace, who's also bound for Australia after a good win over the weekend. But now, yellow colours, 5th or 6th, but once Fallon gets into full flow, Dana responds willingly. Tight handicap, lots of pretty exposed horses in here. Hajras, that horse in the blue colours, who stays on late. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. But on the day, well backed. Fallon, Kamani, Dana continues the Kamani domination of the older horse division this summer.
And Dana, a moderate effort at Goodwood, Graham, but bouncing back there to win under 10 stone.
It's the natural explanation. The Goodwood didn't suit. Yeah. York suited him much better. Left-handed 10 furlongs Redcar, left-handed 10 furlongs York. No problem. Could be a Cambridgeshire horse even.